Hello YouTube, this is YuGiOhTopTeam. We're going to be going over our Spellcaster lock deck, which is our competitive deck of the week. We're going to be kind of doing it in a reverse way that most people do their deck profiles. Starting off from the bottom, because we want to kind of get lead up to what's going on. Starting off, we have a lockdown deck. So we're going to start with 3 Wheel Decrees. Whenever you want to lock down, more than likely you're having Wheel Decrees because you want to stop your opponent from activating your traps. A Magical Dimension, Giant Urinate, Lightning Vortex, Monster Reborn, Terraforming to search out the field spell, which you'll see next. Reload. Now, when you're playing a lockdown deck, for it to work efficiently, you need to get every part of your lockdown done and in your hand. So what's going to happen a lot is you won't draw it the first time, even though you run multiples of the card. You might not draw it. It's very highly probable thing it won't happen. So what's normally going to happen is you're going to need to find a way to get it to your hand. You don't really want to wait and give your opponent opportunities to counter your lockdown. When you're running lockdowns, you can't really mill off because you might accidentally mill off, part of your lockdown. There aren't too many heavy spell and trap card searchers that work efficiently for spellcasters. So reload is just one of those cards where, I get the whatever I have, I don't have to dump it into the graveyard. I can just cycle it back into my deck so I can reuse it later and get a new hand, which more than likely contain in other parts of my lockdown deck. So we only have 2 of those. Back to square one, self-explanatory. You discard a card to take a card on your opponent, a monster on your opponent's field, send it back to the top of their deck, giving them less field position and stealing their draw away. So when you consider how good that is pretty amazing. 2 back to square ones. Mage power. 2 of those. We're on a pure spellcaster deck, so we have 3 solidarities. 3 of those. And we're going to have 3 Secret Village of the Spellcasters. This is the other part of our lockdown. If you control a spellcaster and your opponent does not, your opponent can activate spell cards. That is very self-explanatory. Your opponent can activate spell cards. Or Decrees can't activate trap cards. It just comes to monster, or you'll have to try to match monster effects with you. So for the monsters, we have YuGiOhTop, which if you use the synchro material for a spellcaster type monster, you get the bring back a field spell being your Secret Village spellcaster. So he just works good. When you synchro summon with him, he has 1700 and he's light, so you can see the chaos sorcerer we have in our deck. Summoner Monk. He's pretty standard in all spellcaster decks, so you can drop a spell card in your hand and bring out like a tuner or something. Which its effect is bring out any level 4 or lower, but because of that monster not being able to attack, you don't want it to be sitting there just dead. So you're more than likely going to bring out a tuner such as the Frequency Magician, who's level 2. Combine it with the level 4 and bring out like a Tempest or something. This will give you a light and dark in the graveyard for your Chaos Sorcerer if you happen to be holding one. And this is a really easy way to bring out. The reason we run Frequency Magician instead of the other spellcaster type tuners is, one, he's light, and before I synchro summon with him, I can remove the spellcaster that's the spell counter that's placed on him, and then give it to another monster. That was if he was normal summoned. If he's special summoned, then I can't do it, but he's still easily going to bring out the Tempest I need. So if he's normal summoned, I get an effect that I can use, and if he's special summoned, I still use it pretty well. Use it. Kaiko, self-explanatory. Del can he's the Dark Monarch spellcaster. The 2400 attack points. His effect is, when he's normal summoned or special summoned, you can remove up to 2 cards of your opponent's graveyard from play, and due to how many cards you remove from play, you can mill off the top 2 cards of your opponent. You can mill off cards of your opponent's deck, maximum being 2, of course, since you can only remove up to 2. Now, what happens with this is you can start getting rid of whatever the combo, your opponent's combo went out the graveyard, such as like a Dandelion, if they want to keep on recycling that. Yubel, if that's what they're trying to recycle. Treeborn for frog decks. Clobos for synchro decks. This is a whole bunch of things you just get rid of and then mill off. So whatever they want to combo with might just get stopped solely by him, and then you might mill off whatever they had on top of their deck that's backup. So it's pretty good. We run 3 Stage of Stillness and side deck 3 Stage of Silence. For people that don't know what he does, when he destroys a monster by battle, your opponent can activate trap cards on your opponent's turn, on their turns. And Stage of Silence, is almost the exact match of the card. It's that when it destroys the monster, your opponent can activate spell cards. So he's light and he's a spellcaster. So as you see, we have a lot of attack boosting cards in this deck. Good Solidaries and Mage Powers. So we can boost him up relatively easy. He's light to feed the Chaos Sorcerer in the deck, and he can provide a temporary lock on your opponent's turn. And with your opponents are like running, all traps, they might try to combo off a trap card during their turn, so they can't activate it now. They have to activate during your turn, so they might run into, something such as the Breaker. They might try to combo something off their turn, and if it's like a continuous or something, Breaker just comes in handy. Breaker comes out with Spellcaster. He's 1900 standard in any Spellcaster deck. Most people run 2, we run 3, because we don't have MSTs in this deck. And besides, you run a lockdown deck, so because your opponent won't be able to activate it, you probably won't even have to worry about whatever they have set. If they do have something set, but if you don't want to take a chance, Breaker handles it. So we have 3 of them. 2 Magicians of Valkyria, because they're light, and if they're both on the field, your opponent can attack. And you have the Spellcasters. You have 3 skilled Dark Magician. He's just 19, beat stick, and he can bring out Dark Magician relatively easily. Double Chaos Sorcerer. We tried running 3. 2 wound up a lot better because we like to recycle some cards off the graveyard. But he's self-explanatory. And we have 2 Dark Magicians. Now, for the deck being, the deck's relatively easy to use. It does require a bit of skill to play. Now, when you're playing this deck, of course you want to have both the field spell plus the Royal Decree on the field to create the lock, so your opponent can activate spells or traps. It comes down to monster to monster, which might come down to either effect or effect. And a lot of your opponent's decks that uses monsters might have to recycle out their graveyard, which Kaiko and Dog usually take care of. We side out to other Kaikos, so they can just come in and get rid of your opponent's graveyard for you if you really need to. So yeah, the beatdown portion plus the chaos portion adds additional pressure, as well as the lockdown. So you have, a beatdown deck, a lockdown deck, plus the chaos portion of the deck. Those 3 things coming at your opponent might be a little too much for most decks to handle, especially since they won't have the spell and traps to handle it. So most of their monsters will probably get removed from play thanks to the Chaos Sorcerer just beating the hell out of because of the high attack points that these spellcasters can gain. So it's a really, really good deck. We extra deck 3 Tempest, 2 Arcanites, Stardust, Black Rose, Cataster, and some other things we're just testing out right now. I'll bring in the extra deck for this in the next video. But it's like I said, it's really easy to use, highly competitive. The number 2 duelist on my team actually uses it, and it's the reason why he's number 2 under me. He's just ridiculous playing this deck. He relatively doesn't ever lose matches at all. But that's the deck. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Leave your opinion on how you think the deck is, and if you have suggestions on how you might improve the deck or what decks might get us problems, which mostly any decks besides Gravekeeper, because they all run Spellcaster, so the lock isn't that effective against them, and their Necro Value might come into play. But our beatdown and our monster removal, plus our traps, us being able to stop their trap cards, really gives us the advantage, and we can match field spell. So yeah, that's the deck. And like I said, the only problem we might run into is Gravekeepers, which this deck has gone up against. It actually has never lost a match to Gravekeepers. Those games have been, not just us destroying them with this deck, but it becomes kind of a war of attrition when these Spellcaster locks meet that Gravekeeper deck. So, like I said, if you think you find a weakness to this deck, anything that just might potentially make this deck better, please rate, comment, subscribe. This is the YuGiOhTopTeam signing out. Thanks for watching.